Hey everyone, Blake here. Hope you're enjoying the Christmas calendar. It was really fun to make, but it was a lot of work, so I really appreciate all the comments and likes and tweets and things that people have done to share it with their friends. In this video, I'm going to go through the Zelda Outset Island project and give you an in-depth view of how everything works. So if you've not heard it yet, let's take a listen through. So for the intro, I really wanted to keep the string quartet sound that the original Outset Island has, which, if you haven't heard in a while, sounds like this. And so I took those notes and I basically recreated it in FL Studio using a sample library called Spitfire solo strings. And this gives you the cello, the viola, and the violin in a similar kind of setting. So for now, I'm only going to look at the viola piece in detail, but the exact same process applied to the cello and violin. So we have these two different MIDI channels. We have the specific articulations, which are things like shorts and longs. And then we have this legato, which is a kind of connected, flowing playing style. In FL Studio, the way that I work is I use this plugin I've developed, which lets me map these different playing styles to the different colored notes that FL Studio lets you create. So for example, these green notes are the spiccatos, just really short notes. The slightly bluer green notes are slightly longer spiccatos. The even bluer green notes are the plucks. And then the really blue notes are the longs. And so I'm taking these playing styles and I'm putting them together to recreate the intro from Outset Island. And so it's basically that process for each of the different strings. And you end up with this. To finish off, I added some decoration on top, which was a celeste and a harp. And that's the intro completed. So the next thing I tackled was the first verse. And if you haven't heard it in a while, this is how the original sounds. In my version, instead of just having the flute play the main melody, I decided to have this kind of question and answer thing going on with the flute and an oboe. So mine sounds like this. For the accompaniment, I used a combination of really low woodwinds playing these low, short chords, and violins playing these really short, feathery spiccato chords, like this. And then this slightly more chamber, viola and violin accompany this. And it just defines the accompanying melody a little bit better. Finally, underneath everything is this low string pizzicato. For the second part of the verse, it's basically the first part repeated, but with subtle variations. And I also start to introduce some more instruments to give it a more Christmassy feel. So you can hear this celeste playing up high, which gives a nice kind of ringy, melodic percussive sound. And you've also got this choir that's introduced. The choir itself is Cinesamples VOXOs, and what VOXOs has is a really nice soft sound. I'm also switching out the flute and oboe for a viola and violin, and they play against each other exactly the same way that the flute and the oboe did in the first repetition. Once I completed the verse, I went through and added my own interpretive decoration. I'll turn off the Sleighbells for now because they get really irritating, but if we take a listen through, you'll be able to hear everything that I've added. So you can hear that I add in the harp, add in these bells, you've got this percussive background, you've got a piano coming in, and these woodwind staccatos at play, and some desk bells. And so, once you add this all together, you get something that sounds a bit like this. And so now on to the second part of Outset Island, and the original sounds like this. So I'm not going to go into as much detail for this section because it's basically the same as what I've done before. But what I will do is show you a breakdown of the woodwinds, the strings, the brass, the percussion, just so you get a feel for how they all sit together and build the final piece. So first, the woodwinds. So we have the flute, clarinet and oboe playing the main melody, while these low woodwinds play us a bit of accompaniment. Now let's take a listen to these strings. So after some trills, you have this low sweeping cello bass line. And then the high string section playing harmonies with each other. You also have the low pizzicatos giving the rhythm, and the high pizzicatos and the short notes giving this nice, steady accompaniment. So now let's listen to the brass that pops in halfway. When it's playing solo like this, you can kind of hear and pick out the problems in the performance, but underneath the mix it sounds okay. So lastly, let's look at the percussion and the accompaniment. So as you can hear, there's a lot of interpretation in my accompaniment rather than the main melody. What I will do is play the original and mine side by side, and you can pick out the differences. So finally, the last part, here are the Woodwinds. Next, here are just the strings. Here is the brass. And finally, here is the percussion and accompaniment. And then we're back to the first verse again. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found it interesting and I didn't mumble through it. The Christmas calendar is still running, so check the link in the description. There's a total of 24 video game orchestrations over December, and at this very moment I think we're on day 9. So lots more to come, and thanks again for all the likes, comments, favourites, etc. And I will see you all on the next video. Goodbye.